Games in the National Football League. Always great when we can talk with Sean Salisbury. Sean, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. You and I talked about this, the layoff for the number one seeds. Last game of the regular season, Baltimore against Pittsburgh, the 49ers in their last game. Both teams rested a lot of guys. Baltimore didn't really get their game going until the second half. No disrespect to your Texans, that the team that you cover there in Houston. The 49ers were flat. They were rusty. They didn't look good. I also think losing Deebo Samuel had a big impact on that offense. But, Sean, I just think it's too much time off for these teams. I really do. They got by, but I think it's too much time off.
Yeah, they're fortunate they have really good players who know how to kick it in at the right time, right? I mean, while Purdy's a hell of a player, I mean, when you get McCaffrey and Kittle doing their thing in the defense, you can hang around against teams you're supposed to beat that are maybe less experienced at it because you got guys that can kick in Baltimore same way, Lamar Jackson, that run game. And a lot of times, Grant, what happens is physicality overcomes in those when you're off 3 weeks, overcomes timing. Because when you're the precise and dynamic timing, when you're not doing it every week, and it looked like it for a minute for both of them and for San Francisco a lot of the game. But in like the Baltimore game and watching, you can insert your physicality and will to kind of overcome. It's like anything. If you're boxing and you're not hitting the guy right, then you just say, okay, let me just get into his body and let me do that until I finally get into the rhythm. So being physical can overcome and cover up a lot of the finesse stuff that takes more timing. I didn't think both of them were at their best. If Kansas City's game would have been against Baltimore last week, I'm not sure Baltimore could have survived it, even though they kicked better. They're better than the Texans. And the 49ers ran into a team but got some fortunate that Love threw him the ball, and he's going to be a really good player. So I'm with you. Grant, you and I both said it was a major concern of mine. Now they're locked in, sense of urgency. Are both fortunate because they were better than the two teams they're playing. But start like that this week and play like that. You need to, Baltimore's first half, not the second half, and San Francisco's really entire game. Because I assure you, both Kansas City and Mahomes is the DNA in January, and the way Dan Campbell's got his team playing, if you stub your toe or blink, you'll end up going home as the one seed in both of those games at home.
Sean, you got McDermott, fake punt on his own 30. Mystifying to me. The Chiefs fumbled the ball going into the end zone, so it didn't cost the Bills. But what a horrible decision. And then Todd Bowles. I don't understand what's going on in the NFL going for two when you're down a score. If you listen, you know what, Sean? I'm fine if you go for two, if you get the ball back and score and there's 30 seconds left and you're trying to win the game instead of go to overtime. I'm okay going for two there. But what the hell are you going for two on the touchdown before that? I don't get it, Sean. I don't understand it.
Grant, I don't either. I'm telling you, one of the most confusing and confounding things I ever see in football is how grown-ass men with a brain that are pretty damn smart when it comes to their careers and their lives, right?
Yeah.
That what hits them. And another thing, and I constantly ask this, what yes man is sitting there not getting in his ear on both of these guys saying, coach, and is willing to say, listen, coach, don't do this, and take the wrath of the coach getting pissed at him on the side. Oh, who cares? Hell, if he doesn't like you, ask Philly and ask all these other places, Miami, and they're going to fire your ass anyway.
That's right.
So if you're going to go down swinging. And I don't mean literally, but damn, I maybe that's why it's a good thing I don't coach full time and I just do this. Because if I'm standing next to Sean McDermott, and I'm going to say, what the fuck are you doing? Your job is to give our team the best chance. I wouldn't say it like, but you get my coach. There's no need to. And if I am going to do that backed up, and you got 3 yards, whatever it was to go to, let me put the ball in that big-ass monster's hand and let him make a decision, meaning Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And it's another thing I always laugh. Hey, it's 3rd and 18. Let's let the wide receiver throw the ball. Now, that works when you got a 2-touchdown lead, the old okey-doke, you're running the hell out of it. I understand those dickums, as we call them in the NFL, but I've never understood. I don't know what Todd's thinking. It's like, did you guys just have some brain fog? Do I need to get your testosterone levels up so you don't have brain fog and you need energy? I wouldn't be able to stand by the wayside as an assistant and say, right decision, coach. I love your guts. Guts is fine and dandy until it puts your team in a bad bind. Neither one of them needed to do with it. Buffalo got lucky because of the turnover, but man alive, it just, for such smart guys and good football coaches, these guys on the sidelines, plenty of them make enough stupid decisions, and it ends up costing them their jobs at some point in time.
Unbelievable. All right, let's talk about Deebo Samuel. Could he be the most valuable player for the 49ers offense? I mean, we talk about McCaffrey, but, this year, middle of the season, when they didn't have Samuel, they didn't win. And look at that offense when he goes out of the game, Sean.
Grant, that overused, ridiculous analytic and stat we use in baseball called wins above replacement. That, like, we're sitting here saying, of course, when my starting third baseman goes out, the backup's probably not going to win more games. There's a reason why the guy's starting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This war thing.
Yeah.
I get it, but I just kind of apply it to this. And I know all the analytics and going through what constitutes wins above replacement. I know it in baseball, but just put it in football. Play the game with me for a second. That guy that when you lose him, games change, regardless of the quarterback, that the way you approach that team changes. Grant, I've been saying for about 3 years now that I'm not sure that there's more when you're putting in a game plan. Now, trying to defend Lamar Jackson, the game plan going the week, I told you last week, that may be the hardest team in the league to put a game plan in against because of the versatility. I'm not sure that individually that Deebo Samuel, when you play them, even if he only touches it 8 or 9 times in a game, the entire week you're using up practice time because of Deebo Samuel. And if you're Detroit, the 50-50, I don't know if it changed today, Grant. I haven't seen it if he's been pronounced out yet. It was 50-50 early in the week. If I'm San Francisco, I'm holding out forever until I have to tell you if he's playing or not for obvious reasons. If you're Detroit, you cannot not prepare that he's playing. You have to go in thinking he's playing and prepare for him. So you know what that does? Uses up a bunch of your practice time because the formations and the versatility, and he's at the running back and jet sweep and in the slot and a wide receiver. I think he's as valuable a non-quarterback as we have in a league, especially to an offense, because of how many guys make you screw up your mind with a dozen touches during a game. It's because of what he does. And Shanahan, is there not a perfect match for those two? A guy who loves multiple formations and versatility and multiple groupings and motions and formations and shifts, and put him in the backfield to where you got to move around, and he dictates the flow of your defense. So, yes, I can make the argument on that team, and they got MVP candidates all over the friggin' place offensively and defensively, that without Deebo Samuel, the complete offense shifts. And if you're Detroit and you knew going in that he was pronounced out for sure, your preparation comes a lot more focused. He is a bitch to prepare for. So you are spot on. I've been saying for 3 years, I forget Swiss Army knife, dude. That guy's the manufacturer of the Swiss Army knife. I love him, and his value to that team on the wins above replacement, the war, if it was football, outside of the guy who's got the ball in his hand 65 times in a game, to me, the whole that dude's war, if we had it in football, is about as good as it gets in this league.
All right, Lamar Jackson coming up on Sunday. No doubt about it. It's the biggest game that he's going to play of his life. He's got a lot to prove. I thought the second half he was outstanding. He had a tremendous season, but here we are again. You're at home. You're expected to win. I think, if you're going to be objective about this, Sean, you got to say Baltimore is a better team. But, boy, I got to tell you, the Kansas City Chiefs that I saw on Sunday against Buffalo, that team, as you said, I think they could beat Baltimore. And I don't think the Chiefs beat themselves, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. If Baltimore wins this game, Sean, they're going to have to win the game. The Chiefs aren't going to beat themselves. It's going to take an A version of the Ravens to win this game, in my opinion.
If they both play their best, Baltimore wins.
Yes.
But Mahomes keeps it close, right? Because he's so good.
Yep.
I'm with you. This is going to have to be their – I'm not even sure an A game or a B-plus game wins it. I know he's only played once on the road, but listen, you got to have a lot of balls and big balls if you bet against Mahomes in January. He's just different. And Dan Patrick, I saw it like 2 days ago, makes a great point. And I know it's hard to fathom. When Dan said it, I knew what he was saying. Patrick Mahomes is underrated. And when you think about it, you're like, well, what are you saying? And then you sit back and say, damn, Dan might be right. I'm with you, Grant. It's hard for me to pick against who I think's the best team. And when I say, well, the other team's got the best quarterback, but the truth of the matter is that Lamar Jackson's had a better season than Mahomes. Now, last week was the best all-around offense with Isaiah Pacheco and the way they threw it, and they looked rhythmic. It looked like the Chiefs' offense I'm used to watching, Grant. If they play like that, it's going to be a bear for the elite defense that Baltimore has, and they are nasty. And Queen and Roquan Smith are as good a linebacking core as there is on the planet. They really are. So I agree with you. And Lamar's going to have to elevate again and do what he does. And I think he can, because Kansas City's defense, Grant, I've been saying all year long on my show that if they get to the Super Bowl while Mahomes is Mahomes, it's going to be the Kansas City defense that is the big banger in this, because they have really improved, and they've got some guys that can make a difference on their team too, and with Chris Jones. So, yeah, Baltimore's gonna have to play the best game they've played all year to beat this guy, simply because it's Mahomes, it's January. As much as I love Lamar Jackson, how do you look? It's like playing it's the modern version of Brady. When he's in this game, no matter how they've played all year, you say advantage the guy who wears number 12 in New England or Tampa. So it's the same with Mahomes. I don't want to touch this game with a bet with a 10-foot pole, Grant, because I've had Baltimore all year long in this position.
Yep.
I'm sitting here. My buddy Mattress Mac was talking to me, and from Gallery Furniture. We had about a 90-minute conversation yesterday in person. I'm sitting there visiting, we're laughing, and I'm sitting there thinking, Mac's about to talk me out of picking Baltimore in this damn thing because of Mahomes. And here I've studied the position forever, saying, Mattress Mac, sell furniture and go play quarterback. You can do both. Damn.
What type of guy is he?
The best on the planet. The
Really?
most giving, loving, fun personality. He's one of us sitting in a room having fun. He fits right.
Wow.
He is the best. There's no bigger difference maker in Texas and Houston than that guy. But he knows everybody. Everybody knows him. He loves sports. He just loves people. And Grant, he grinds at his job at 9:00 at night. That dude's in there working. Every customer that comes in, he's greeting as if he's an intern salesman. Right? This is the owner. Well, hence why he's so successful, right? Well,
Yep.
And as I digress, but phenomenal. So we're talking. I'm like, Mac, you've talked me out of betting on Baltimore. Hell, I picked them. How can I waffle? But they're going to have to play their best game, Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's just Kansas City. If Kansas City plays average, Baltimore will boat race them. They'll curb stomp them. But if I see that same offense from Kansas City and Baltimore, we're in for one hell of a matchup if both offenses and both defenses are primed and ready to get to a Super Bowl. But yeah, man, it was the best and most consistent and looked like the offense that I'm used to seeing in Kansas City. But the biggest challenge for me is, one, Isaiah Pacheco challenging those running backs in their run game. And for the Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City's front seven, you are going to have to defend the bandwidth of the field when that ball is being play action and run game. I think it's going to be a blast to watch. But, man, you got to have big balls to bet against number 15. You really do.
Sean, if I'm a 49ers fan, should I be nervous as it relates to Brock Purdy in this game based on what I saw last Sunday?
Well, what did we see? Grant, I'm trying to figure – it's amazing. I'm not you, but it's amazing to me when I see some of the diarrhea of the mouth national media who just – the narrative, the hatred for a guy in a win as opposed to – again,
it's embarrassing.
It is humiliating. What it tells me, you're just your thought – I mean, I respect everybody's opinion. But when you're trying to base it like –
Jennings said? Did you see what Greg – I mean, what – are you kidding me? And even Amy Trask, I thought, made an awful comment. I think Brock Purdy has proven himself beyond any shadow of the doubt. There's no question to me. All right, I don't see what people are
punished
looking at.
for having good players.
That's correct.
I don't know. So we're
but
not.
He was not his usual self on Sunday.
Oh, there's no doubt. And right. I was going to get to that real quick, but I'm just the overall thought process. Listening to like what Clark said about him, and then I get Greg Olson on Pat McAfee saying, "Listen, we give guys. I mean, we want to credit Josh Allen in a loss, and we should. The guy's a monster talent and a freak. Yeah, we blame everybody else in loss, but when it comes to if the 49ers win, we don't want to give Brock Purdy any credit. If I put up the numbers of all four quarterbacks, all four, and said I didn't put their name by them, and I said rate them, you know who's going to be at the top of the list of the four left? Brock Purdy. Now, it's not just numbers, but he wins. He's like second in yards and accuracy for deep balls thrown down the field. So you can't tell me he can't throw the deep ball because, well, the metrics and analytics tell me he can. Here's the way I look at it. Is he the least talented of the four in? Sure. But you want me to go through the list of least talented quarterbacks who have been great players? You don't have to be the great athlete because the quarterbacks get mad at you when you call him a great athlete, but don't call him a great quarterback. Yet Brock Purdy's a hell of a quarterback. 2 years in, NFC Championship game, keeps winning. Greg Olson went off in the Pat McAfee show talking about this very thing. I don't understand the hate. You can give me an opinion, but when the opinion seems to be based on an empty analysis, for clicks, and it's diarrhea of the mouth. I respect everybody's opinion, but when you tell me Brock Purdy and they like, well, he's a system guy. That's the excuse.
They said the
well,
same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco. Whenever
they
they
said the
won,
same
no one
thing
ever
about
gave
Drew
any credit.
Brees.
When they lost, they killed the guy.
Wasn't Drew Brees a system guy in New Orleans?
Yes.
They run that shallow crosser. Wasn't Brady? I mean, everybody's got a system.
Yeah.
So I just would Brock Purdy have made Carolina a playoff team? No, but you know who else wouldn't have had him in the playoffs this year? Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. So
good point.
Listen, I just, to me,
I'm glad you're saying this.
It baffles me that we should be raving about the last pick of the draft, the raving about the story, because in order to catch the ball and run after the catch, the ball has to be thrown accurately. So I am concerned if he plays average, Detroit can win. But he still listen, don't we give guys credit for finding ways to win when they're not at their best? And
Sean,
he does.
If Brock Purdy was taken third in the draft and Trey Lance was taking last, we would not have this conversation. Narrative would be, oh, wow, what a great pick by the 49ers. They were great to give up all the picks they gave up to move up in the draft to get this guy. It's solely based on where he was taken in the draft, and that is bullshit.
Oh, it is. And I just don't listen. Do I think there's guys that are more gifted? Of course I do. But this position isn't based on just gifts. And I love it that, well, he couldn't go playoff schedule like the other guy. Great. Well, he doesn't have to play off schedule because he's good enough to get it out on schedule. And when he does, he's underrated athlete. I don't get, what do you want from him? If he goes and wins the Super Bowl, you know what they're going to say? It's because he had good players. If they lose and he throws for 400, you know what they're going to say? It's his fault. So I've never, in this short period of 2 years, and the numbers are alarming, they're epic. So he's got gaudy numbers, he wins, and you know what? If he beats Detroit, you know what his record is versus playoff teams this year, Grant? 6-0.
Well, that's called undefeated. Okay, but I want you to go back to the game on Sunday. What did you see with him? Because he was missing some throws.
I actually think, Grant,
Saturday.
I think for me, and I've played with a couple teammates like this, I don't think he's probably in a game now, maybe in snow or something, but when the elements hit, I don't know how big his hands are. He feels like a guy that, he took the glove, put it on, took it off. I don't feel like he plays his best football but who does?
Troy Aikman was the same way in the rain. Troy Aikman hated the rain. He didn't throw the ball.
So it happens, right? And isn't every quarterback that I've ever played with that's awesome, the ones that I play with and watch, aren't they allowed to have a bad game once in a while?
Yeah, of course.
But I credit guys when you don't play your best that you still win, that you found a way to gut it out. If that would have been, let's just honestly, if that's Josh Allen, I'm not dogging Josh Allen. I think he's spectacular. If Josh Allen's in San Francisco and they win that game like that and he played like Brock Purdy did, we are raving about his guts and how he gutted a victory out, and rightfully so.
Yep.
I just don't know why we can't say the same about Brock Purdy. Listen, Kyle Shanahan, Richard Sherman, Antonio Cromartie, me, I'm not putting myself in them categories. Guys like Greg Olson. I'm okay if Kyle Shanahan, listen, he swam circles around Trey Lance, did Brock Purdy. He ran him out of the building with his performance.
Right.
So, to me, the narrative on Brock Purdy is as horseshit analysis as we have in sports right now.
Sean, the last time I looked, despite everything that happened in the game on Saturday night against Green Bay, they got the ball in the fourth quarter trailing, and he took the team down on a game-winning drive. And on the ensuing possession, we know what happened. Jordan Love was intercepted, but that's the drive of the game right there, and he got the team into the end zone.
And Love's going to be a great player, but just let me shift the narrative. Love's talented, was patient. He's going to get paid, and he should. I think the guy's phenomenal skill, and I love his demeanor, Jordan Love. Now, I want you to just flip the script for a second. If Brock Purdy makes that throw and costs the 49ers a game,
oh, my God.
The drive,
oh,
dude, they'd say, see, I can't play. What's he doing? But if you notice that most of those national pundits that are ripping Brock Purdy are praising the guy who lost more than they're praising the guy who won and helped lead his team. And you know what? Talk to his teammates. Go talk to Deebo Samuel. If Deebo likes him, I really don't give a fuzzy rat's ass what the rest of the world thinks. I really don't. Brock Purdy is a hell of a football player, and he's had epic numbers that a lot of these guys that we're talking about in the Lamar, Mahomes, who in his second year did it, and Jared Goff. None of those guys in their first 2 years, because Mahomes didn't even play for but one game. None of those guys in their first 2 years matched what Brock Purdy's done in his first two.
Are the Lions ready to go from a non-playoff team a year ago all the way to the Super Bowl?
I think they can, Grant. I do, and I think they are, and I think a lot of it is taking on the personality of their head coach. And I go back, I watched a little short tape of them in training camp, Grant, when Dan Campbell was addressing his team and explaining, and I'm big on a communication guy, right, who gets right. See Dan Campbell get down in a three-point stance and teach a guy how to do it during practice. I'm really big on guys that communicate with their players is, hey, guys, we got to put the pads on today. I'm not trying to kill you or kill your legs, but I'm just trying to just trust me on why we got to be physical, and it's paid off for them. So sometimes you just got to get, and I go back, Grant, you've heard me say it a million times, the buy-in and the leadership. I think they've taken on the personality of their head coach. It will not shock. I'll be surprised. I will not be shocked if Detroit goes in and plays their ass off and not only makes it a game, you turn it over a few times, Detroit's capable of scoring on anybody.
That's
their
right.
defense is flying around. The problem they're going to deal with, Debo or not, is they're so versatile and multiple offensively. I actually think both of these games are a fourth quarter game. I don't think there's a blowout in either one. I love it. And yes, the question people are going to ask is Detroit mentally and emotionally ready to take on all this stress that goes with it now that they're not playing in their building? I think they are, because I think they understand what's going on. And these guys know San Francisco will be a tough place to play, but you know what? I think their philosophy is, well, why can't we go in there and beat them? We got good players too. I don't think they're afraid of anything. And I think that yes, and if they get to the Super Bowl, there'll be plenty of people that'll say the AFC is going to curb stomp them. I'd be careful with that, because we've seen movies like this before that these guys find a way, teams like this, but yep. It's quite a turnaround over the last couple of years, and I love the faith that Detroit showed in keeping Dan Campbell, and it's paid off and validated.
I can't wait to talk next week and analyze these games and get ready for the big show. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Me too. And Riley, real quick, you asked about Antonio Pierce. Yes, I think it's awesome that he got the gig. I'm glad the Raiders came to their senses. And Grant, at some point in this offseason, we head to baseball. We got to talk about Hall of Fame voters. I'm just going to get this in real quick.
Yeah,
we have got to start scrutinizing and criticizing Hall of Fame of how we give a guy a vote, just like they do when they don't put a guy in the Hall of Fame. We need to take it just as serious, because you know what? How's Billy Wagner? I'm just using him as an example. How's he not in the Hall of Fame? Grant, look at his numbers. Look at his friggin' numbers. And I know there's more guys like that. I want the same criteria to give a guy a vote that we put on the baseball player that's a Hall of Famer and doesn't get in because some guy leaves him off a ballot this year but voted for him last year. I think it's hogwash. That's just me.
Well said. All right, buddy.
I'll talk to you, brother. Thank you.
Sounds great. Just love having Sean Salisbury on the show. Fabulous stuff. Ryan in Sacktown. We shift and we go to the Sacramento Kings in the NBA. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. What's going on? First, we get tweets this morning about the Astros when you post the show. And now Sean's throwing in baseball takes at the end. I love it.
That's Sean, man. He's the best. All right. So I did a rant this morning ripping De'Aaron Fox. And now he's talked to the media and said that his reason for not talking to the media wasn't because he was upset at the media, but didn't elaborate. It's garbage. It's nonsense. I think the Kings look really bad here. The NBA looks really bad here. And the guy that looks the worst is De'Aaron Fox. It's unprofessional. It's a lack of leadership. It's everything that I want in De'Aaron Fox I'm not getting. It's awful.
Well, Grant, I think we have to take a step back before we make that judgment. And here's why. This all unwound, allegedly, when they were on a road trip, right? So you have a small contingent of local media that's traveling with the Kings. So you don't have the entire contingent that would be here that would have noticed De'Aaron's not talking to the media. And it picked up steam when they send Keon Ellis to the stand to talk to the media after a 40, 50-point loss to the Pelicans. So I don't know. I don't know where to come out on it. It clearly is not basketball related. From what I'm seeing here, we're not talking about injuries. Nobody followed up there. This is something internally and something with Fox, and it's playing out in front of everybody.
Okay, I'm going to go a different angle because I've been on the road with the media and I've been involved in how all of that works. And I've talked to the small contingent of Sacramento media that would follow every game. It would be talked amongst us about why Fox is not talking to the media. It wouldn't be something that would be unnoticed. It would not go. You wouldn't keep quiet. You would go, gee, where's Fox? How come Fox isn't talking? Okay, I'm telling you, I know. The late Marty McNeil of the Sacramento Bee
Deep
would have
voice
had
Marty.
someone's ass over this. Okay, Aileen Voisin would have had a strong column on this. Ari Graswich would have had a strong column on this. There are others that would not have tolerated this and would have made waves over this, both with the team and they would have gone right to the NBA. If the Kings did not give them a sufficient answer, they would have bypassed the Kings and they would have gone right to the NBA and they would have demanded answers. What has been going on for the last couple of weeks is unacceptable. I don't ever recall it going on in my history of 32 years of the NBA. I don't ever recall this going on before. Okay? And now De'Aaron Fox comes out and talks to the media today and says his reason for his silence has nothing to do with the media. Well, what does it have to do with? Why is it that you are violating the terms of your contract by not talking to the media? I don't understand it.
Well, yeah, and let's take even just a quick step back from that, Grant, and I appreciate you sharing it because I think it's important. They would have reported on that, and in fact, a lot of the people that just can plug in a microphone and talk right here on the internet are getting ripped today for your take, in the take that we're talking about, how it's unprofessional of De'Aaron and the organization, and it wouldn't have happened in the past. But it's the media contingent that's here today. And it's just questions that are softballs. They want to be more friends sometimes, and they want to actually cover a team.
Okay, well, here it is right here. This is it. Patrick has just hit this right on the head. When Fox is the big cheese in a small market, maybe the local media doesn't want to lose access to the Kings. Patrick, you are
Bingo.
100% correct. When Jason Jones, who I never understood how he got that job in the first place, the guy is horrible, okay, just awful. When he was covering the Kings, when DeMarcus Cousins was on the team, I would say to him, how is it that you don't put that in the paper? How is it that that's not part of your story? And you know what he would tell me? If I write about that, he won't talk to me anymore, and I need his access because I have to be able to talk to him. That's what he said to me on more than one occasion. And I would shake my head and go, you got to be kidding me. You're not going to put that in your story. You're not going to write about what you just saw. You're going to let 100%. That slide. And he would say, yeah, because if I do, he'll get pissed at me and he will blackball me and I won't be able to talk to him anymore. And I was like, so what? That's ridiculous. You're the beat reporter. He was gutless. Okay. He was absolutely a gutless, pathetic reporter for the Sacramento Bee. Gutless, pathetic. I used to get in disagreements with the guy over it. I'm like, how do you not put that in your story? I mean, it's awful. You're covering up for him. You're enabling him. Oh, no, you don't know. I actually talked to him, about he can't treat the media that way. Well, you're not doing a very good job. It's Patrick, you are 100% correct. Props to you.
Props to Patrick. I don't disagree with that. I guess the point that I'm trying to make when I say take a step back, I'm looking at this a little bit further from a distance and saying, look, the night before De'Aaron comes out and talks to the media, he gives a short interview to Sean Cunningham.
Yes.
Where they're in the Kings locker room. You can find it on the X. It looks staged, Grant. It looks like the decision by LeBron. And it's like, what are we doing here? Well, the media is playing games now with the players. Who's in control of the rhetoric, right? And I don't want to disregard or disrespect any of the media members here in Sacramento. They work hard. They do their jobs. I'm not a reporter.
No, they don't do their job. No, they don't do their jobs. I disagree with you. They don't do their jobs. Did Sean ask De'Aaron Fox why he hasn't been talking to the media?
No. You cut me off before I can finish. They do their jobs in order to keep their credentials. because that is what gives them their access. There is that overlying layer that allows them the access. And if you ask those questions, this would have been in the spotlight, as you said, much earlier. But it's a different era around here, Napes. Different era. We can't ask these questions. We can't here.
Well, they ask him in all the other cities in America. Why can't they ask them in Sacramento?
Great question. You asked him for many years.
When LeBron James blew off the media 3 weeks ago, it was all over the place. Okay, it was in all the LA papers. It was on everywhere. Now I know it's LeBron James, but the fact is they didn't let it slide. Okay, they came down on him. They were like, they didn't give him a 1-game pass. And LeBron is great with the media. LeBron is accessible. LeBron does his duty with the media. He's great. So the one time he blows off the media and leaves, everyone's talking about it, and it's in all of the stories. Did that happen in Sacramento? No. I mean, it's just a joke. It's an absolute joke. And the reason why I'm upset about this is because the ones that are getting screwed here are the fans who spend their money,
100%.
Ryan, who invest their time, whose team goes through a bad stretch, and their best player, who's being paid the most of any player on the team, I believe, $30+ million, who's your all-star, who goes out, and talks about how important it is to bring a winning culture to the Sacramento Kings, just decides that he's going to blow off the media for a couple of weeks, and it's a non-story. I mean, how does that happen?
Well, Grant, when it's completely out of character, too. We're not talking about, a player that has had problems with the media in the past. It's De'Aaron Fox, right? He's Mr. Smiles. So it shouldn't happen, but it's Sacramento. It's a small market. That's what it is. You don't have the big name reporters. Grant, the Kings blew a huge lead to a Phoenix Suns team in the last 8 minutes. That didn't catch a trickle of national run for the most part. So it's those little things. It's up to the people here, but the fans are ultimately the losers because you could have handled this so easily. You could have just nipped it in the bud.
All right, so let's get on to what begins tomorrow, the longest road trip of the season. The Warriors play tonight against the Hawks. I don't know what to expect from the Warriors with what they've had to endure with the death of their assistant coach. I really don't. I don't know if that galvanizes the team. I don't know what it does. But the Kings begin a long road trip tomorrow. And quite frankly, Ryan, I don't know which Sacramento Kings team is going to show up.
Well, I hope it's a Sacramento Kings team that's kind of washed free of this, or at least put a Band-Aid on this for now and they can focus on the basketball. But look, the Warriors, losers of 4 or 5. It's going to be an emotional night. We've talked about that, not just for the Warriors, but even for the Kings guys. That's a young guy that was a coach in the NBA. You think about Serbians and you think about Baki, who shows up all the time. Like, that's a close-knit group. So there's other Serbian players in the NBA that are affected. So anyways, the Kings are going to just have to treat this like another game. They've got to go in mindset 1 game at a time, because you look at the numbers, Grant, this Kings team and this Warriors team statistically are not far apart.
I want to get to this. Yeah, no, we're circling back. De'Aaron might just be going through a difficult time in his life right now. He will come out of it. All right, let's just assume for a minute that that's true. Does not mean that he doesn't do his job. There are a lot of players that are going through difficult times. Okay, there are a lot of issues that go on in the homes of players that you don't know about. They still talk to the media because it's part of their job. If you're going through something in your personal life, but it's not enough to prevent you from playing, then it doesn't mean that it should prevent you from doing the other part of your job, which is being accessible to the media after the games. You don't have to talk about your personal life. I would say this: the Sacramento media is not going to ask De'Aaron about his personal life because they have class. Okay, they understand the quote unquote etiquette of that. That has nothing to do with the game. So I will give the props to the Sacramento media. They're not going to go there like a Philadelphia Inquirer or a New York Post or some others. Okay, so I will give credit where credit is due. The Sacramento media is smart enough to stay away from that if they think something is going on in a player's personal life. But you're wrong, okay? He will come out of it. Most people that have issues, if there is an issue, do come out of it. I agree with that. But it doesn't mean that you can stop talking to the media. It just doesn't. All right, I'm jumping around, but I wanted to get to that. I want to ask you. I was thinking about what you said to me on the last show. I'm with you. I would take 4-3 on this road trip right now. I think I analyzed it. I looked at it. I'm 100% with you. I would take 4-3 in a heartbeat on this trip.
Yeah, I think you have to. It's one of those ones that you got to survive. And I think that if they come out of this, Grant, we're looking at the negatives because the Kings have had a bad stretch of basketball. They come out 4-3, and we talk about the brutal stretch they have to end before the All-Star break. They could go into that with some nice momentum and could finish strong. Kings finished strong last year, which was a huge asset for them rolling into the playoffs.
Yeah, because their last 4 games, Denver at home, at Oklahoma City, at Phoenix, at Denver. I mean, that's brutal, okay?
Brutal.
That is brutal. So
that's like a break your season stretch if you have a bad 7-game stretch on the road with the way this Western Conference is playing right now.
All right, so let's go wins on the road trip. I'm not as optimistic. I think they're going to go 3-4. You got them going 4-3, or you want them to go 4-3?
I want them to go 4-3. I think 3-4 is more realistic. So I think Golden State's a win, Grant. Do you think Golden State's a win?
Yes, I do. I think a lot depends also on Indiana if Halliburton's playing or not. I know they beat them once without Halliburton, but they're going to have Pascal Siakam, and Indiana still is playing very competitively even without Halliburton. He's going to miss the next 2 games. They have 3 games in between that. So I think if Halliburton's on the floor with Siakam, I think that's going to be a loss. Miami is always a difficult game. The Bulls are on the second night of a back-to-back. That's not going to be easy for Sacramento. Dallas is waiting for Sacramento because the Kings embarrassed them the last time they played. So I'm going to say the Kings go 3-4.
All right, 3-4. Yeah, I'm gonna go 3-4 with you for a lot of the same reasons. They play 3 games in 4 nights on that stretch against some teams that they should theoretically win. But even if Halliburton doesn't play, that's still a dangerous Indiana team. We saw TJ McConnell look like an all-star here in Sacramento. But this is really one, Grant. You can't let teams that have been struggling show up and get right. You can't be that get right team. The Kings can't be that team on this trip.
All right. Well, the good news is we're going to talk a lot more about all of this coming up in about 20 minutes with Jerry Reynolds. So we'll talk to you again, Ryan, in a couple of minutes. And everyone else, be sure and stay with us here in 20 minutes. Jerry Reynolds, more Kings and NBA talk. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
My pleasure, Grant.
All right. Talk to everyone soon. So long.